Hi, I'm Clara, and this is the story of how my sister's wedding gifted me a front row seat to the culinary chaos. No kidding, they actually handed me a flimsy folding chair as if I were an afterthought, someone who didn't quite fit. But that wasn't the true sting. The real gut punch came from years of subtle, quiet erasure, the kind that doesn't scream but slices you deep. Before we dive into this tale of familial exclusion, tell me, have you ever felt like the perpetual outsider in your own family? Drop a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. Trust me, this is family drama you won't want to miss. The envelope arrived all glossy weight and a faint cloying scent of roses inside a thick cream card, peeked out edged with delicate gold foil and embossed with intertwined initials. BD, the typography was elegant, scripted to utter perfection. The date, April 20th, was printed boldly. The venue, a luxurious estate just outside Charleston, South Carolina, exuded a curated, camera-ready vibe, and it was clearly not meant for my eyes alone. Yet nowhere, absolutely nowhere, did it say, "Dear Clara." Not on the envelope, not on the card itself, no hastily scribbled sticky note, no. "Can't wait to see you there," from Brianna. Just stark instructions, location, time, dress code, formal. I flipped the card over, then again. Nothing. Not even a simple text from my own sister to say she hoped I could make it. I wasn't invited, I was informed. The invitation felt heavy in my hand, heavier than the expensive cardstock warranted. My fingers traced the embossed lettering, every elegant curve of their perfect monogram, and a chilling realization dawned. They had meticulously designed a wedding that simply didn't include me. It merely accounted for me like a chair rental, like the extra napkins. My sister Brianna had always been obsessed with symmetry filters and anything that glittered. We had grown up under the same roof in Raleigh, North Carolina, but we were never truly the same. She was the golden child. Dad's beaming pride, Mom's miniature. I was the planner, the fixer, the girl who aced her classes and made sure the refrigerator was stocked. When Brianna snuck out to meet her high school boyfriend, I covered for her when she flunked out of her freshman year at USC, fielding the awkward calls from admissions. And when she received that first earth-shattering voicemail from Dustin, yes, that Dustin, I was the one who made the popcorn and stayed up with her on the bathroom floor as she sobbed. I held her hair. She moved on. I remained in her blind spot. The wedding itself wasn't a surprise. Brianna and Dustin had been engaged for a year. Dustin was an online lifestyle influencer. His posts filled with followers, clamoring for skincare routines and tips on hosting effortless brunches. Everything he touched looked sponsored. He referred to people as energies, not names. Last Christmas, he'd called my job, logistics coordinator for a nonprofit supply chain. Adorably local. I stopped bringing it up after that. A few days after the impersonal invitation landed in my mailbox, Mom called, "Have you RSVP'd yet?" Thinking about it, I hedged, letting the sentence hang in the air. "Well, everyone else already has. It would be nice if you showed your support, Clara." This is her moment. Her moment, as if the rest of us were mere extras in her perfectly filtered life. Did she even want me there? I asked, my voice carefully neutral. Even Mom didn't offer a reassuring, "Of course." She sounded distracted, the clinking of dishes or the rustling of mail filling the background. "Oh, and no need for a dress fitting, dear," Brianna had apparently instructed. "You're not really part of the bridal aesthetic. You won't be in the official photos." Bridal aesthetic, like I was a clashing throw pillow in an otherwise meticulously curated room. My chest tightened, but I swallowed the rising emotion and simply nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I ended the call, politely, thanked her for the information, then sat heavily on my bed, the offending invitation still clutched in my hand. I could have said no, could have burned the glossy invite blocked. Brianna's number stayed home, ordered takeout, and called it self-care. But I didn't. I booked a quiet, simple hotel just outside Charleston. I chose a pale blue dress, elegant and tasteful one I knew Dustin wouldn't approve of. Definitely not on brand. I wrapped my gift in matte black paper, sleek and classic. A hand-blown glass tea set from a local artist. Nothing flashy, just thoughtful. Inside, I tucked a small note, "May your mornings be soft and your evenings forgiving." I didn't pack hope. I didn't pack expectations. I packed a present, my own presence, because this wasn't for them anymore. It was for me to witness a chapter close with my eyes wide open. I wouldn't plaster on a fake smile for the cameras or hover expectantly for praise. Witnessing would be enough. I zipped up my suitcase, paused at the door, then added one last thing. Silence. The kind that speaks volumes louder than the carefully rehearsed speeches they had planned, the kind they wouldn't know how to caption. The drive into Charleston took longer than anticipated, a frustrating crawl through spring traffic weekend, wedding congestion, and a GPS that seemed determined to reroute me down every back road I didn't recognize. By the time I finally reached the sprawling estate, the sun was beginning its lazy descent behind the ancient trees, casting a golden haze across the impossibly manicured lawn. The venue looked like something ripped from the pages of a glossy magazine. Pristine white roses climbing oak trellises. Delicate string lights twinkling like distant constellations above a lakeside ceremony space. And a valet line overflowing with luxury cars. I couldn't afford to rent for a weekend, let alone own. I stepped out of my modest sedan, clutching the sleek black box containing the tea set. A uniformed server offered to take it. I hesitated for a fleeting second, then let go, watching him walk away with it, a small offering to a celebration I hadn't truly been asked to be a part of. I followed the discreet signs to guest check-in, a table draped in soft white linen cluttered with clipboards and manned by a woman in a headset, who looked like she hadn't cracked a smile since breakfast. She glanced at her list, then up at me. Huh? I nodded. I'm her sister. Another pause, slightly longer this time. Oh. She glanced back at the clipboard as if it might magically rewrite itself. Sorry, it says here. +1, seated in section F near the kitchen access. Should be just behind the hydrangea hedge. It's shaded. Shaded as if that were some coveted perk. I blinked, trying to process the casual dismissal. The air suddenly felt thick. Access. I repeated the word, tasting like ash in my mouth. Logistics, she said with a dismissive shrug, as if we were rearranging catering crates, not family. Before I could formulate a response, a voice chirped behind me, saccharine sweet and utterly devoid of genuine warmth. There she is. It was Dustin, resplendent in his pristine white suit, the train of Brianna's elaborate gown trailing behind him like a royal decree. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her voice carefully pitched to charm and dismiss in the same breath. She gave me a tight-lipped, posed smile. So glad you could make it. I told the team you'd be here. Hope the seating's okay. We had to prioritize close friends and family. And you know how limited space gets when it's such an intimate ceremony. Intimate with over 200 guests and 2 dedicated photographers. It's not in the kitchen, she added quickly, as if reading the hurt in my eyes. Just near it, great view of the lake, you'll love it. Brianna appeared then 5 steps behind, wearing a veil like a crown. She didn't offer a hug, didn't utter a single word, just gave me the same cool, dismissive look she used to bestow upon strangers who dared to brush past her in boutiques. Polished, silent, I swallowed whatever emotion was trying to claw its way up my throat and simply nodded. Thanks, I'll find my seat. Walking through the venue felt like stepping into someone else's meticulously curated life fairy. Lights twinkled, guests sipped champagne from elegant flutes. Laughter floated in carefully measured bursts. Every step toward Section F felt like a descent into something colder. The designated seat was a flimsy folding chair. Gray metal, no cushion, placed precariously at the edge of a table, already half filled with names I didn't recognize. On the table sat a small tent card. Clara +1, Brianna's sister. Like I was someone's afterthought, a leftover guest. Across the sprawling lawn, I could see the sweetheart table adorned with shimmering crystal and gleaming gold. I even spotted my uncle, who hadn't spoken to our family in 6 long years, laughing jovially with Dustin's cousin, a woman who had once ghosted me after borrowing $400, seated closer. I recognized that rhythm, that role, the one that quietly supports, that holds up the whole show but never ever gets thanked in the credits. I stayed seated, but my mind started racing, replaying all the countless times I had played the helper, the fixer, the family buffer, and I finally realized this wasn't the first time they had placed me out of sight. It was just the first time they had stopped even pretending they weren't doing it. By the time we shuffled into the reception hall, the sky had dipped into these gorgeous shades of lavender and gold. The air outside smelled of freshly cut grass and spilled roses. Inside, the ballroom shimmered in the soft glow of candlelight and the smooth sounds of jazz. The walls were washed in these warm champagne tones, like someone had run the whole evening through a Valencia filter. Guests drifted from cocktail hour to their assigned tables, ushered in like extras onto a meticulously planned film set. I just followed along behind them, completely unnoticed. I wasn't rushing. There was absolutely nothing to rush toward. The lonely seat by the kitchen still waited for me, still that same unforgiving folding chair, still too close to the swinging door where harried servers offered silent apologies with their shoulders as they squeezed past. I eased into it again, offering a small nod to the man beside me whose name card read, Caleb +2 groom's boss. He gave me a polite, fleeting smile and then immediately turned away, already deep in conversation with someone 2 seats down. As glasses clinked and plates were quietly cleared, a microphone crackled to life. Vivian's voice rang out crisp and bright. We just want to take a moment to thank everyone for being here tonight. It truly means the world to us. I waited, a foolish little part of me still hoping that maybe, just maybe, she would say my name. Offer a quick nod, a fleeting smile in my direction. Anything. But then she handed the microphone to Colette. My breath caught in my throat. Colette stepped into the spotlight, poised and absolutely glowing in a stunning satin navy dress that looked like it was made for this exact moment. Her hair was swept up elegantly, and her hand rested gracefully on the stem of a champagne glass. Her voice was calm, charming, utterly practiced. I've known Vivian for years. She began, her gaze sweeping across the room, pointedly avoiding my corner. And what I admire most is her unwavering loyalty, her incredible ability to show up for the people she loves. And Dahlia, well, her creativity is simply unmatched, the way she sees the world, how she captures beauty in the simplest things. I felt something sharp and cold twist in my chest. I kept my expression carefully neutral, but my stomach churned. Colette didn't even glance my way. She never mentioned me, not once. But the subtext hung heavy in the air. Vivian shows up for who she loves, and that's clearly not you. People clapped, the room seemed to sway with this manufactured warmth, and I just sat there feeling utterly hollowed out. A part of me drifted, floating backward into a memory. It was 4 years ago when I first met Colette. A quiet Sunday. Vivian had brought her to brunch, and we had clicked almost instantly, 2 quiet minds drawn to each other without any need for loud pronouncements. We read together, we even traveled once, just the 2 of us. And when it ended, it didn't really end. She just stopped responding, faded out. And then one day I saw her tagged in a photo at Vivian's place, holding Vivian's dog, wearing Vivian's old sweatshirt. She hadn't chosen a side. She had become the side. The microphone passed to more friends, cousins, a neighbor from childhood. Each spoke with such love-sharing anecdotes and inside jokes that I had absolutely no context for. I was just background noise, the paperweight that had always silently held the family together, but was never ever the ink. After the speeches, I got up quietly. Of course, no one noticed. I walked over to the designated gift table, a small glass cart with mirrored panels piled high with luxurious bags. Designer tags, bows so perfectly tied, they looked machine-made. I placed my carefully wrapped package on the far end where it wouldn't dare to crowd the glossier boxes. My gift, that Tiffany tea set I had hand-selected weeks ago. Understated, personal. I didn't linger. I didn't wait for some polite comment or a perfunctory, "Who's this from?" I just walked back to my lonely seat, smoothed the skirt of my pale blue dress, and watched dessert come and go. No one looked at me, not even once. A week later, I was back in my quiet Raleigh apartment when a box arrived. No return label, but the handwriting on the sticker was chillingly familiar, overly loopy, like someone trying way too hard to be elegant. I opened it. My tea set. My little note still tucked inside. But now there was another piece of paper clipped to it. Recipient declined. No storage available. That was all it said. I just sat on my floor, the box beside me, completely stunned, but not even remotely surprised. They hadn't forgotten me. They had actively, deliberately rejected me. The apartment was quiet, just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional gust of wind brushing against the windows. I sat curled up on the couch in an old, comfortable hoodie, my legs tucked underneath me, phone in hand. I hadn't planned to scroll through wedding posts. I had told myself I was done with it. But curiosity, that relentless little beast, isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's just muscle memory. A cousin I barely spoke to had tagged me in a photo. That's what started it. The caption read, "What a beautiful night, so much love and light, Van de Wedding 2025. The post had one of those generic filters that turned skin, porcelain, and skies a sickly sweet pastel. I clicked into the album, 127 photos organized like a press release. Vivian laughing under a floral arch. Dahlia mid-twirl guests clapping politely. Floating candles on the lake. A close-up of the rings, a cocktail napkin that read, "Happily ever after starts here." I scrolled slowly, meticulously looking for something, anything that proved I had even been there. Nothing. No table shots of Section F. No blurry glimpse of my lonely folding chair. No swinging kitchen door. No steel trays gliding past me. Not even a wide-angle shot that might have accidentally caught me in the crowd. Until the very end. One photo, blurry, dark-edged. It showed someone walking past a doorway half out of frame. Just the back of a head, barely lit by a catering lamp. The grainy caption underneath read, "Backstage vibes LOL. That was me. That's all I got." A ghost in someone else's carefully constructed story. I scrolled through the comments. Such a magical day. Vivian looks absolutely divine. Dahlia, you're glowing. There were shout-outs to bridesmaids' uncles, even Vivian's college roommate. Colette got a glowing thank you for her incredible words and unwavering friendship. But no one mentioned me, not even in passing. No thank you to the family who traveled. No grateful acknowledgement for everyone who supported us. I had been there. I had shown up. I gave a gift. I wore the dress. I took up space. And yet somehow they had managed to make it look like I hadn't. Not forgotten, actively removed. I stared at the screen, numb. Then with a sudden sharp clarity, I typed a message to Vivian. "Hey, I'm just curious. Was I deliberately left out of the wedding photos?" I didn't actually expect a response that night, but 15 minutes later, a reply popped up. From Vivian. I didn't really handle the photo selections. Dahlia coordinated with the photographer directly. I wasn't involved in all the final edits. Sorry if you felt excluded. If I felt excluded, I read the message again. The language was so clinical, like she was managing a customer service complaint. No acknowledgement of hurt, no genuine remorse, just this sterile distance wrapped in 3 lines of fake neutrality. I didn't respond. I just sat in silence and stared at the Tiffany box, still sitting on my kitchen counter, that beautiful blue unopened since the day it had been returned to me. The tape was still intact. I hadn't had the stomach to look at it again. But now it was more than just a return package. It was a tangible trophy of their deliberate erasure. I opened my laptop, not to write yet, but instead I clicked on the wedding photographer's professional profile. She had posted a highlight reel, same perfect angles, same smiling guests, same sickly sweet filter. I searched for my own name in the tags. Nothing. I wasn't just invisible. I was deliberately untagged, untouched, untold. I turned off the screen. My face didn't betray anything. No tears, no trembling lip, just a chilling stillness. But inside my spine, which had been bowed for so long, finally straightened. There comes a moment when silence morphs into guilt. When watching it all happen, without uttering a single word, means you're letting them define you. I had played that role for far too long, smiling tightly. When insulted, nodding through blatant exclusion, rationalizing other people's cruelty as just how they are. But I had seen the curtain pulled back now, and once you see it, you can never truly unsee it. They hadn't wanted a sister. They had wanted a shadow, someone who would stay on the blurry edge of every memory, just far enough not to ruin their perfect picture. Well, if they wanted me invisible, they were about to learn what silence really looks like when it finally decides to speak. Evening settled over Raleigh like a heavy, suffocating quilt. I sat at my small dining table, the overhead light feeling harsh and too warm, the air in my apartment still and stale. My phone rested beside a cold cup of chamomile tea I had never gotten around to drinking. Across from me sat the Tiffany box, its silent presence somehow louder now than when it had first arrived. A returned gift, a rejected gesture, a perfectly wrapped symbol of everything I wasn't allowed to be. I picked up my phone, not to mindlessly scroll this time, but to really look. Buried deep in my camera roll was the photo I had taken at the wedding. I didn't even clearly remember snapping it. It was grainy, dim, badly framed, just a sliver of a gray folding chair, a name card that read Rowella +1, Vivian's sister, and the blurry motion of a server passing by the kitchen door. There was no drama in it, no angry confrontation, just quiet, stark humiliation captured like an afterthought. But it was real. That single imperfect photo said everything the polished speeches hadn't, everything the curated post had deliberately edited out. It wasn't a protest. It was simply irrefutable proof. I opened Instagram, then Facebook. I copied the unflattering photo into both. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then moved with an unexpected certainty. Caption: helped plan the wedding, secured the caterer, got seated beside the kitchen. Bride said I should understand, so I left quietly. I read it twice. No anger, no blame, just cold, hard facts. I tapped post. The quiet that followed felt heavier, more significant than the moment before. I set my phone down, unsure whether to feel brave or utterly foolish. I didn't expect much, maybe a few sympathetic comments from friends, maybe a worried message asking if I was okay. But that wasn't the point. This wasn't about seeking attention. It was about creating a record. An hour passed, then another, and then the ripple started. First it was Dana, my old coworker from the nonprofit, who commented, "I always knew something was off that night. You deserve so much better." Then Sandra, a distant cousin I hadn't seen since our grandfather's somber funeral. This happened to me at my brother's wedding. Same folding chair, same deafening silence. More likes, more comments. DMs started trickling in from people I had gone to high school with, from women I barely knew, but who had apparently followed me for years. They weren't just responding to me. They were responding to a shared experience reflected in my stark photo. I noticed, one wrote, "I just didn't know how to say something. My sister did this to me." Another confessed, "It still stings. You put into words what I never could." By midnight, my unassuming post had been shared over 100 times, then 200. The number kept climbing, but I didn't reply to any of it. I didn't feel the need to. Instead, I simply refreshed the page once, then let the screen dim. There was a strange power in that stillness, in not explaining, not clarifying, not softening the blow so others could sleep more soundly. I had always been the one to smooth things over, to offer a quick, "It's okay, I get it, don't worry." But this time, no. This time, I let the unvarnished truth stand alone. Vivian hadn't messaged me, and neither had Dahlia, not yet. But I could easily imagine the frantic group texts, the hushed phone calls happening behind the scenes, the panicked damage control, the conversations that undoubtedly started with, "Did you see what she posted?" What they didn't seem to grasp was that I wasn't setting fire to anything. I wasn't trying to tear them down. I was simply finally stepping away. And when someone like me, the quiet anchor, steps away, the weight they have been carrying goes with them. That's when people start to feel the shift. That's when they look around and suddenly wonder why the carefully constructed ceiling feels like it's about to cave in. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to earn a seat, not just at a wedding, but in the family, in the photos, in the carefully curated narrative they told at every holiday gathering. I had fought so hard to be seen, to be valued, to be remembered. But that lonely folding chair, it had given me something none of that desperate striving ever could: perspective. I saw the guest list from the outside. I saw how easily silence could be twisted into irrelevance. And I saw with absolute unwavering clarity how often I had allowed it to happen. Not anymore. I didn't cry, I didn't shake, I didn't scream. I just exhaled. It turns out that folding chair was the best seat in the house, because from there, I could finally see everything with unclouded eyes. I hadn't expected silence to echo quite so loudly, but it did. 2 full days had passed since I had shared that stark photo of the folding chair. The post remained stubbornly pinned to the top of my profile. quiet and unassuming, but the waves it had sent out were anything but still. And now the backlash wasn't from anonymous strangers online. It was coming directly from inside the house. Vivian finally called mid-afternoon. My screen lit up with her name, that old, slightly blurry photo of us from 10 years ago, still attached to her contact. I let it ring. She tried again 10 minutes later. I didn't answer that one either. The inevitable voicemail arrived right after. Hey, I think this is getting a little out of hand. People are asking questions. Can we talk? I don't want to fight, I really don't. Can you please just call me back? Her tone was tight, strained, a brittle mix of panic and practice performance. It wasn't an apology, it was a containment strategy. I set my phone down and walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, took a slow sip, then another. The next message came in almost immediately, this time from Dahlia. We didn't mean any harm. Please seriously consider removing the post. It's negatively affecting some of our brand partnerships. There it was, not "we're so sorry you were hurt," but "you're hurting our carefully constructed image." Clean, cold corporate. By evening, the pressure found another, more familiar voice, Mom. Her tone was softer, laced with that practiced concern, but I knew it well, the carefully calibrated, "let's not make," whispered. I saw what they did. The ones who had stayed silent, not because they didn't care, but because they had been conditioned to believe that silence was a form of survival. Now I was tentatively teaching them something else, that silence could be sacred, but it could also be a powerful choice. I wasn't here to simply echo anymore. I was here to build my own resonant voice. I stood at my front door, keys still clutched in my hand. My gaze fixed on a cream-colored envelope, nestled amongst the usual junk mail coupons for places I'd never go, credit card offers I'd immediately shred. This envelope wasn't addressed in handwriting I recognized, and there was no return address, just my name neatly printed in simple block letters. Inside was a single sheet of heavy, unadorned paper. No embellishments, no flowery borders, just stark, honest words. I let your sister call the shots because I didn't want conflict. I realize now I silenced you too in my own way. I'm sorry, Dad. I reread it twice. There were no justifications, no attempts to soften the blunt truth. For once, there was no redirecting blame, no "you misunderstood." Just a belated but clean acknowledgement. I left the envelope on the small entryway table and sat on the arm of the couch, letting the quiet of my apartment fill in the vast spaces his few words had left unsaid. It wasn't redemption, and it certainly wasn't reconciliation, but it was something akin to a door I no longer felt compelled to walk through, finally swinging shut behind me. 2 days later, the TEDx mic felt surprisingly lighter than I had imagined. The stage was set with a vibrant red carpet, a sleek curved backdrop, and ironically neat rows of folding chairs. I stepped forward, my breath, even my hands steady. I was seated by the kitchen. I began, my voice clear and resonant because that's where they thought I belonged. A few quiet murmurs rippled through the attentive crowd. A few heads offered understanding nods. I continued, my tone steady, but not cold, infused with a quiet strength. And for a long time I accepted that. I told myself that keeping the peace meant quietly sitting wherever I was told. I confused being quiet with being kind, but I've learned that some peace isn't peace at all. It's silence purchased with deliberate erasure. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. Sometimes we're seated by the kitchen because that's where they want us. But the view from there, it teaches you everything about what desperately needs to change. No applause yet, just a weighty, respectful silence. As the audience processed my raw honesty, I spoke for 11 more minutes, my voice unwavering about the insidious nature of invisible labor within families. About a loyalty that tragically only travels in one direction. About the profound ache of knowing your name is known, but deliberately not spoken aloud in the rooms that truly matter. When I finally stepped off the stage, I didn't feel a surge of triumphant victory. Instead, I felt deeply anchored, as if something essential inside me had finally clicked firmly into place. A woman in her 40s, her eyes filled with a quiet understanding, clasped my hand backstage. "I've been that sister," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I know that seat." I didn't offer a practiced polite smile for the sake of appearances. I smiled because for the first time, I didn't need anyone else's approval to know that I finally unequivocally belonged to myself. That night, back in my quiet apartment, I unpacked the last box I had been consciously avoiding, the one containing the unopened Tiffany tea set. The elegant silver ribbon was still tied from the day I had carefully chosen it. I placed it gently on my bookshelf, not as a shrine to past pain, but as a quiet milestone, tangible proof that I had shown up even when I was demonstrably unwelcome. My phone buzzed softly. Vivian again. Another message I didn't feel compelled to open. Some doors don't dramatically slam shut. They just drift closed over time, almost imperceptibly, until one day you realize you no longer harbor any real curiosity about what lies on the other side. I stood there for a long moment, my hand resting lightly on the cool glass of the tea set, and let the quiet of my own home settle around me like a comforting hug. I no longer had to desperately earn a seat. True forgiveness isn't always a loud, dramatic pronouncement. Sometimes it's the quiet, resolute refusal to let the same old hurt echo a second time. Sometimes family drama doesn't explode in dramatic confrontations. Instead, it erodes quietly, slowly, insidiously, until one day you look around and realize you've been meticulously edited out of your own story. But profound healing begins the very moment you stop desperately asking for a seat at their exclusionary table and bravely start building your own. Have you ever felt like the invisible one in your own family's narrative? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We are genuinely listening. And if the story resonated with you, if it stirred something within you, please consider subscribing for more authentic and emotionally resonant journeys that often hit a little too close to home.